Aforementioned Vinny Goodwill from Yahoo Sports, Yahoo NBA writer, formerly here locally of the Detroit News, right, Vinny? Were you news?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Hey,
Vinny. How you
Vinny.
doing, man? So good to see you. So happy for your success.
Likewise, man. Appreciate y'all, man.
So Vinny, let me just first ask. I was stunned when I saw the news today that they were going to pay Monty Williams $65 million to leave town. What was your reaction, and what does this signal to you from Tom Gores?
Why were you stunned? Today is Juneteenth. There's nothing better than on Juneteenth to give a black man his freedom and $60 million.
That's facts. That is facts. That's my guy. That's my guy.
That's
my guy.
Remarkable.
That's it, Vinny. You should leave now. Go out on a high note. Go out on a high note.
There is nothing you'll say in the next 15 minutes it will be as profound as that.
But as far as organizational direction, I think you look at it like this. They hired Trajan Langdon, and I've been away to the NBA Finals. Last I checked, they hadn't introduced him yet, right?
No.
That's been the signal that a decision hadn't been made, because the first question you were going to ask was going to be, is Monty Williams coming back? And if he wasn't ready to answer the question with a resounding yes, then he's not going to take the podium. So he's going to be introduced in the next couple of days, and then you're going to talk about, okay, how are you structuring your front office? Who are you hiring as a head coach? I think the important thing to remember is this. If you think Troy Weaver and Monty Williams are the biggest problems or the only problems for this organization, I think you would be short-sighted. Like, this thing needs a top-down sort of fumigation. You know what I mean? You know, you fumigate a crib before you buy it and all that type of stuff. Like, this is what this organization needs. It needs to be evaluated from the top down, because Monty Williams was only here 1 year. Troy Weaver was only here for a handful of seasons, and yet and still this team has not won a playoff game since Tom Gores has taken over as owner. There's been presidents, there's been GMs, there's been coaches. This is going to be his sixth coach since taking over. They haven't won a playoff game in 16 years, and we've seen the Celtics build, rebuild, tear it down, go back to the finals. That should infuriate Piston fans to see other franchises become relevant while this franchise sits where it sits right now.
Hey, Vinny, you bring up such a great point, and I'm glad you went there, because we did not just yet. But there's no doubt when you look at this Pistons organization, you know, Arn Tellem has a major voice in this organization. Arn Tellem's son has a major voice in this organization. Some of the other scouts in this organization, you know, it is more than coach and GM. There's no doubt about that. What do you think Tom Gores needs to do? Well, you told me, but how do you move forward if you're Trajan Langdon or a new coach, knowing that, you know, hey, I'm coming to the same organization with all the same fail spots along the way? What does that signal to you if you're Trajan Langdon or James Borrega or whoever comes in here?
Well, I think the important thing is this. They hired a president of basketball operations. Troy Weaver was a GM. And I know nobody thinks of that as two separate roles. But when you're the president, that means you're responsible for every facet of basketball operations, which means that you quiet the cooks in the kitchen, which means that everybody's going to settle into their roles. Like, this is what the franchise needs. They need one voice to say, this is our ethos. This is what we stand for. These are the type of players we're going to look for. This is the type of coach that we're going to look for. And everybody can have a voice. There's nothing wrong with Arn Tellem and his basketball experience having a voice. There's nothing wrong with that, because you look at it. CAA runs the New York Knicks. Clutch Sports has a real big hand in the LA Lakers. There's nothing wrong with influence. It's just making sure that it's influence and not driving the organization and keeping people in their proper places where their skill sets aren't overvalued. And hopefully Trajan Langdon comes into a place of leadership. Like, that's what this organization needs more than anything else. It needs leadership. You don't have to model the Lions. You don't have to model the Boston Celtics or any other organization. You don't even have to model the bad boy Pistons or go on to work Pistons. This is a new NBA in a new league, and you have to adjust to where the league is. And you also have to be honest about where you are as an organization, where you fit in the NBA landscape. You're not a free agent destination, so you're going to have to pay Cade Cunningham, which means you're going to have to be smart and making trades and smart and making hires and utilizing the advantages you do have. I just think that this organization has been leadership-less over the past couple of seasons.
Vincent Goodwill, 21 years ago, we played on the same team and went to the same high school, man. Every time I see you, I know we're literally a year apart, man, but I'm so proud of you and the work that you've done. It just had to say that out loud, man. Proud of you and good to be able to talk to you in this space. With that being said, you talked about the revamping of the front office. You talked about the revamping what Trajan Langdon has to do. Let's step onto the basketball court. Let's talk about the actual player personnel. What's the first move of Trajan Langdon when you're assessing the talent or the lack thereof that the Detroit Pistons have? If you're the Pistons, if you're Trajan Langdon, what are you looking for? Are you trying to make moves to add to Cade Cunningham, or you're like everybody is up for sale in the new space of the new Detroit Pistons?
Well, that's interesting, Braylon, because I don't know if you look at Cade Cunningham and say, we can't win with him. I think you don't have the evidence to say that you can't. You don't look around at this team and say, man, we've got Cade Cunningham, who was an exceptional talent, right? Not saying Hall of Fame talent, but an exceptional.
Definitely an all-star at some point, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would not be surprised if he were an all-star next year. But you're saying if Cade is our guy, then we have to surround Cade with better complementary pieces. You've got Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey. Maybe Thompson is the best. I'm going to say Thompson. Maybe Stewart is the best shooter out of them. You know what I mean? Like, if he's not a guy that can blow by you and get to the basket, then Cade is going to need space. And you don't see players on the roster that can complement Cade with space. You almost felt like they were toggling between two different identities. Oh, let's go big with Duren and Stewart and get tough and beat up teams. Or let's be fast and go get a Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson.
Yeah.
And you've forgotten about the most valuable commodity in today's NBA. It may not be the NBA that I love.
Shooting.
Like, I love a tough, rugged NBA. Like watching the Boston Celtics take 45 threes in the NBA Finals, that ain't a league that I want to see, but it's the league that we in.
It's what we have.
You got to adjust to that. So I do think that you look at all those pieces, they are good talents, Braylon. Like, those guys are not talentless, but you got to figure out what pieces fit and what don't. And you also have to have some hard conversations and say, hey, maybe this guy's a good player, but not a good player for us.
Hey, Vinny, and last question. I mean, maybe it's not a fair question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is this a situation where you can see the Pistons in 3 years being in the playoffs, or maybe even 2? I think in every sport, whether it's MLB, whether it's NBA, NFL, NHL, 2 years is kind of the window now if you got the right people in the office to get it done and get teams from zero to playoffs. Do you think the Pistons have that opportunity in the next 2 to 3 years to be a playoff team?
Braylon, it's a cheat code now in the NBA.
Well, tell me what it is.
You got to play in, so all you got to be is a top 10 team.
Very
and you
true.
can at least be in the conversation. And I'm with you. The elite sports leagues moves faster than ever, quicker than ever, right?
Yeah.
You have rebuilds that they don't take 5 or 6 years anymore. If you've got a star, if you've got the guy that impacts winning, that influences winning, that drives winning, it shouldn't take any more than 2 years for you to flip and turn over a roster. If you've got draft picks, if you've got cap space, not to go out and sign free agents per se, but to fit players into trades that is going to fit that, right? You look at the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference stunk this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Boston walked through the East and God bless them, won the championship and all that. But Milwaukee is not going to be great because their guys are older. You don't know if the Knicks are going to be in one piece next year. You've got a lot of teams with a lot of questions that it's going to be more so trending down while still being good. There's not young teams that you're looking at in the Eastern Conference and you're saying, you know what? In 2 years, they're going to be running this. Maybe the Orlando Magic because they got a lot of young pieces.
Paolo Banchero.
Yeah. But other than that, Braylon, this is a prime opportunity for a Pistons franchise that has, you know what? I'm going to give y'all a stat. Since the year I was born, 1984, that was the year that the NBA went to 4 playoff rounds and 16 games, right?
Right.
The Pistons have the second most amount of Eastern Conference Finals appearances next to the Boston Celtics in the last 40 years. You wouldn't know watching basketball in this town over the past 15 or 16 years that they have a championship tradition because they ain't been worth a damn.
Hey, Vinny, the last time the Pistons had some money to spend, they brought Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva here. Now, I know this is a new era, but they got some money to spend. Who the hell wants to come here? Who can they actually get free agent-wise to come to Detroit?
I don't think you look at free agency. I think free agency is like, it's a great idea, right? I think you're better off using free agents to fill in the gaps when you use your mid-level exceptions and stuff like that. But I'll just give you a great example. The Houston Rockets went from being a really bad team to being a team that kind of went to the precipice. They picked up crazy-ass Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet, right? Not all-star names, but guys that sort of helped your culture. Veteran guys that kind of show guys how to work. And they overpaid for them. They paid a lot of money, right? If you find culture guys on the market, because there's no veteran guy on this roster. Remember last year, they had all this free agent money, and they wanted and traded for Joe Harris, who had bad ankles and didn't play at all. Like, you can't kick the can down the road. You have to actually have a plan. Now, it's good that they didn't spend bad money after bad money, so you still have flexibility, but you actually have to have a plan, whether that's in the trade market or free agency. I don't think there's this one guy that's going to be out there. But Massaway, I will say this. Have you seen NBA money? Somebody will take your money. Don't worry about that. Don't look at it like, man, ain't nobody going to take Detroit's money.
Monty did.
Oh,
I said Monty Williams did.
Hey, look, man, I learned one thing. My mama told me a long time ago, you ask a woman on a date the first time, she say no, don't ask her the second and third. The Pistons went to Monty 3 times and said, Monty, please take our money. And he said, all right, fine, I'll do it. And that should have been the sign that you was not going to be successful with this person. That's a little marriage advice for y'all, too.
Amen.
Okay. Big facts, Vincent. Hey, KG in the sound booth. Nice to meet you. Happy Juneteenth, brother. But the Pistons don't make a move like this a week before the draft unless they have a coach lined up. Now, I know James Borrega has been the rumored name, but do you think the Pistons should go more of the veteran coach route, or should they maybe lean into the young coach, maybe an experienced assistant coach to lead this thing going forward?
Just say veteran coach, like they just didn't fire Monty Williams. Ain't no more veteran than Monty Williams. You know
that's
what
true.
I mean? Like,
that's true.
I don't know that they have a guy in mind. I don't think you're looking at the timing of this and saying, oh, they got some master plan, because what has shown you about this franchise that has indicated that they have some master plan, right? This is when they got the okay to fire Monty Williams. This is when everybody was on board with it. I was told today pretty much that they had 3 options, that it was bring Monty back for the full length of his contract and say, we're going to commit to you and we're going to see this through. The second option was, let's give it a trial year and figure this out. And the third option was cutting them loose. And it seems like the third option was the best option, but they were all finally on the same page. Once again, because you have a lot of people who have a lot of influence, and you don't want to force Trajan Langdon into a spot where he has to A, inherit a coach on a big contract that he didn't sign, or B, fire a coach and hold the owner to $65 million of a contract that he did not agree to. So I think you had to give Trajan Langdon his due diligence and the time to figure out if this relationship was going to work. And I think he came up with that decision. But I don't think it means he has a guy. I think there's a few guys he would probably like to talk to, like James Borrego, maybe JJ Redick. If the Lakers thing doesn't happen, you never know.
Talking to Vinny Goodwill. Vinny, you just coming off covering the NBA Finals where the Boston Celtics win their 18th NBA championship. We were talking, and that run, where would you place that 16-3 run that the Boston Celtics just, 4-1, 4-1, 4-0, 4-1. I mean, that is, they didn't even have a series in there anywhere.
That's like, you know what that's compared to? So I didn't play high school with Braylon. Like, I knew better, right? But if you put Braylon against me on a fly pattern, he gonna win every time. It don't matter what round it's in. That's what it looked like for the Boston Celtics, right? They were playing against Donovan Mitchell without Donovan Mitchell. They were playing against Tyrese Halliburton without Tyrese Halliburton. You know, they played who was in front of them through no fault of their own. Had they played the Denver Nuggets in the finals, okay, we'd be talking about all-time great run. I think it was a dominant run. They were 16-3. All-time great run. You gotta have some more blood on that banner besides the blood of Pascal Siakam or the blood of Darius Garland or the blood of whoever the hell they played in the first round. Oh, the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. I will say this. You take nothing away from being a champion. You don't apologize for being a champion. Like, there's been championship teams in this town that have played injury-riddled teams, and there's no asterisk on that. I just stopped short of saying how great the actual run was. We don't have to lie about it, but we do say they are a valid champion. I was there for it. They won the championship, and they don't have to apologize for it.
Fair.
I got a 2-part question here involving the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, LeBron James, will he stay in L.A.? Who will be their coach? And then I saw this today, and it blew my mind, and I want to see if it blows your mind. And you probably already know this, but nonetheless. In 2016, at pick 2, the Lakers select Brandon Ingram. At pick 3, Boston selects Jaylen Brown in 2016. Very next year in 2017, the LA Lakers select Lonzo Ball at 2. At number 3, Boston
Tatum
selects Jason Tatum. I mean, is that?
That's a mic drop.
If you're the LA Lakers and you could have had Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that is. I mean, I keep thinking about Giannis Antetokounmpo being picked after, at 15 that year or whatever he was, and complained about the Pistons. But just the Lakers. Where does LeBron end up? Is he staying in LA?
Do you see his old ass going anywhere else? I know when I get old, I ain't trying to move from city to city. Like that man, he got more gray hair on his face than he got hair on his head. That's a sign that you need to sit your behind down somewhere. Like I think he has a couple more years left at this stage of his career where he's effective, where his body is going to be able to play 55 to 60 games. Anthony Davis is there. He's not going anywhere. I'm not saying all this is a bluff. I think all this is just, you just show the Lakers that, hey, maybe I can go somewhere if you don't do the things that I want you to do. And to your point about that draft, it's important to note the Boston Celtics had that number 1 pick. They just swindled the Philadelphia 76ers into taking Markelle Fultz, and they were going to take Jason Tatum the whole time. That just shows you how inexact of a science the draft is. Like, Jaylen Brown didn't even have a great rookie year. Brandon Ingram was kind of ahead of him, but it's just about fit. And not necessarily talent, but fit. You see that in Detroit. You see that everywhere else. You can look at the draft and say, hey, good draft pick, good draft pick, good draft pick. But it doesn't always turn out that way because you have to have fertile land and you have to have an organizational direction that allows for that growth and development.
Before I get back to Braylon for a minute, can I give you one wild card team for LeBron James? Wild card.
Okay.
Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie, Luka.
He's not going and playing for the minimum. Like if you know LeBron James, LeBron is not about taking pay cuts.
He's a businessman.
He wants to buy an NBA team, and that means I need to get all of my cash while I can, and that means staying in LA.
Yeah, Fox Studios has got a lot of money invested in Brown, so I think he'll be all right in the cash department. We know what's going to happen in the West. The West is going to be it's going to be a wild show next year. You got Minnesota, you got Phoenix. Will they figure it out? Obviously, Dallas Mavericks. I don't care about the West. It's the East. You talked about getting good now. The East has not been that good. Celtics, number 1 team, probably going to be favored to win again. Who's that number 2 team that you see in the Eastern Conference Finals next year with the Celtics? I see Pascal Siakam just got extended to the tune of 4 years, $189 million. Is it the Pacers? Is it the Knicks? Or is it some wild card that I'm not paying attention? Who, Boston, and what?
I mean, I'm never a believer in the Philadelphia 76ers because I've seen their movies, right? Joel Embiid is always hurt.
Yep.
Somebody's choking. No matter
same ending every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. It's the same movie, dog. It's like the Fast and the Furious. Whether you go to outer space or you go to South Central.
That was wild.
Right?
That was wild.
I think Braylon, Philly could be a team. I tend to trust a team like the Miami Heat to figure stuff out because they always manage to figure stuff out. They had the bad year this year, but they were in the NBA Finals the year before. They were at a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago. I tend to trust organizations that have directions and great coaches and great players. Maybe this is one of those years where Miami goes into, not the free agent market, but the trade market and says, we're going to go get a starter pair with Jimmy Butler while Jimmy Butler is still in his prime. Yeah. Philly is going to go after Paul George. They're going to try to get in the business with some of these other guys. I don't trust the New York Knicks because Tom Thibodeau, it's all cute when these guys are playing 48 minutes during the regular season or 48 minutes in the playoffs. When
Julius Randle?
Next year, go look at them numbers next year. Come back to me next year and go see what Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo and Jalen Brunson, those dudes will look like an old car next year. You know what I mean? They look like an old car where you fitting 6 dudes in a small BMW and you
head into the River Rock. You brought up the Fast and Furious, man. In the words of Dominic Toretto, we will always be family, my brother.
my dude.
100%.
Hey, Vinny, we're so happy for your success. So proud of your success. Keep killing it at Yahoo, and of course, your podcast, Goodword podcast on Yahoo, Ball Don't Lie channel on X at Vince Goodwill. Thanks so much, bud. We appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate y'all, man. Thanks again for having me on.
Yeah.